Obama administration and House Republicans remain at odds this morning over the crisis at the border, but there's one thing they do agree on, and that is trying to fast-track the deportation of thousands of young Central Americans who enter the country illegally. We wanted to learn what happens when they return home. Manuel Bojorquez just got back from a visit to El Salvador. He's with us here in Studio 57. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning. We visited a government immigration center in the capital, San Salvador. Hundreds of young immigrants who are caught in Mexico trying to reach the United States have already been deported, and there is hardly a safety net for them once they return. They arrive by the busload. Dozens of young people, some holding infants, who had packed bags and headed north. But they were caught before they could reach the U.S. and sent back to El Salvador. For security reasons, we can't show their faces. This 16-year-old fled with her 2-year-old son. It was one of the toughest decisions of my life, she said, but I'm afraid for my son because of the violence and gangs here, so I had to try. During the first 3 weeks of July, almost 1,500 deportees came through this processing center, 467 of them minors. Officials ask basic information, allow them to call a relative, then send them on their way. They return, in most cases, to the same circumstances they ran away from: entrenched poverty, lack of opportunity, and skyrocketing gang violence. El Salvador has the world's 4th highest murder rate. Zaira Navas is executive director of the country's Council for Children and Adolescents. Certainly there is violence that leads to some of the citizens leaving the country, she said, but it is not the only cause of the situation. She believes young people are being lured away by smugglers or relatives in the U.S. With all due respect, some people might say these are excuses that are being offered up for the fact that the government has really not done much to prevent the growth of these gangs, and that the violence is the reason these children are trying to leave. Is the solution to say, in order to satisfy whoever listens, the government has failed? She countered. What we should say is what we are going to do and how we are going to resolve it. That includes identifying bad neighborhoods. But instead of just a hardline police approach, she also favors prevention measures, bringing services and investments to these communities. The test will be what happens after these teenagers pass this center's gates. ¿Lo intentas otra vez? Would you try it again? Sí. Yes, she said. If things get worse here, I'll try again. The Obama administration has said that any minors who have made it to the United States and qualify for asylum will be allowed to go through that process, but there are concerns that speeding up the deportations will not allow for a thorough review of those cases.
Manuel, are these kids, are they traveling usually alone? Because they're not with their parents when they leave, correct?
They're not with their parents. Their parents have somehow come up with money to pay a smuggler, and then the smuggler pretty much gets a group of these kids together and tries to get them up.
And is it true that there are many rumors in these countries, too, that Obama will let these children stay in the United States once they make it here?
We did hear people talk about, yes, we have heard. There wasn't a sense that necessarily it is true, but they figured let's take our chances.
All right, well, thank you.